And of course, they were like, well, it's based on that karate and East Asian gods and stuff, and it's violent, and it's making the kids all violent and stuff. And that was honestly kind of true.
Hello and welcome to Another Dead Pixel, a podcast about video games, entertainment, anime, life, a little bit of everything between. With me today is Nick, the man who, after St. Patrick's Day, goes to McDonald's and then asks for a Shamrock Shake at discounted prices. Nick, how are you doing today?
Oh, my shillelagh. I'm doing top of the morning to you.
Oh
I'm doing
man,
pretty
someone's very
good.
offended right now.
I play D&D, motherfucker. I practice my Irish accent all the time.
At least you didn't go with the Boondock Saints, I suppose, right?
I mean, like, what would I say? What's, I don't know, like, what do they say in Boondock Saints?
Everyone just goes off with the prayer they always end up saying out loud. You know, the
I
one
don't
everyone gets
know.
tattooed on their ribs or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
that might be a little too much. I don't keep the Boondock Saints at the top of my mind. But man, Willem Dafoe in the movie is really good. Symbolism.
Yeah, what's the symbology? The symbolism. Yeah.
There was a firefight.
Yeah, that's one of his greatest quotes. And you just like the moment where he comes in dressing in drag. I know, but
Dude, it's the best. So,
I mean, takes confidence to pull that scene off. Uh,
man, there's some stuff that does not age well in that movie, but man, there is some funny Willem Dafoe stuff in that movie. Gosh, I should watch that again. Yeah.
the best ending to a cat's life in any movie. Um, that's just a look at you, man.
It just explodes.
Yeah. No harm to real animals, but it was funny when the scene was unexpected.
That's not
For those
funny,
who
but
haven't
it's
seen the movie
so
Boondock
funny.
Saints,
It's just.
maybe watch it. I'm not sure how well it aged. It was a thing it was a product of its
Wait,
time.
did you say you haven't seen it or you have?
No, for those who haven't.
Oh, for those who haven't.
It's a
Okay.
questionable thing whether or not it'll hold up because when you
I
watched it
mean,
when it first came out, it was great, but
it was wild. It was great when it came out. But yeah, there's definitely some things I can think of that maybe don't age super well now. But yeah, I think if you're a grown ass adult, I think you can watch it and be okay.
I had a coworker show his like 80-year-old grandma was it Pulp Fiction for the first time a couple weeks ago. Yeah, Pulp Fiction to this old Polish grandma. It was hilarious because he was just like telling me her reactions to things. It's like she just knew it was gonna. I warned her it was gonna be violent, but she didn't realize what kind of violence, and she was like, "Wait, why is he doing that?"
There is, yeah, where that movie takes a turn. I mean, that movie takes a lot of turns, but there's a part in that movie that just takes a completely unexpected turn.
And I
And
was I was trying to I was like, why would you have shown her Zed? And I'm like, why? And he's just like, she was okay with it.
I mean, she should have seen it back in the '90s when she was only like in her mid '60s, or so. So it's
She
on
probably
her.
would have not been open minded as she is now, probably.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's
but yeah, it was just like I was amazed, and it's like I'm like good on you and good on your grandma
she's
for like both being able to enjoy stuff like that together. I'm like that's awesome.
she's probably like,
I'm kind of jealous.
I better not make my caretaker mad, so I'm just gonna pretend to like this movie.
I don't
Or
know.
just
I have to be able to have grandparents like that old. That's it's actually pretty neat. All my family has been gone since for a while, so I was just like, yeah, to actually be able to hang out with them and stuff like that, and to actually click. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
old people do
So
mellow out pretty hard, so they're like they've kind of seen a lot that. I mean, we think of them in one way, but really they were young at one point too, and they probably cursed like sailors and stuff at that time. So it's really not. They're not that you know new to the world.
Yeah. So, anyways, speaking about new to the world, how was your last couple weeks?
Good, pretty good. Um,
You sound very upset.
they've been okay. Um, yeah, I don't have anything big to report as far as that stuff. I've had plenty of time to play games though. I've been playing more games than watching anime. I've been watching some shows too though. I guess I should talk about Last of Us at the end of this thing, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
get your impressions on that one for sure. I mean, I have yet to watch any of it, but now that the whole first season's done, I've heard some of the big plot points or whatever, like how it differs, and I'm like, all right, that's neat. Um, didn't know if you got a chance to watch that SNL uh, skit for the Mario movie
I
that
did.
they joked about.
I did. That was
That
hilarious.
was pretty brilliantly done, and but
Man,
yeah,
Pedro Pascal is he's just a great leading man. The guy's just a good actor, man.
yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Let's jump in right in the news then. What do you got for us?
Oh, Justin Roiland has been exonerated, I suppose. The charges were dropped. So Justin Roiland, I guess we should say, few months ago. Um, start over again. Justin Roiland is the co-creator and one of the and like does like most of the voices for Rick and Morty, the TV show, and he also started Squatch Games, and they made High on Life, which was a pretty big hit as far as reviews go. I don't know how well it sold, but it was a pretty big hit as far as reviews and stuff. So right about the time that was coming out, these charges against him came up about I forget exactly what it was, but basically like kidnapping, imprisonment, and then a bunch of texts came out about him um, uh, alleging that he was kind of into minors in a bad way. So just recently, just I think today actually, um, the those charges were dropped apparently due to a lack of evidence. The article that I saw on Kotaku also said, let's see, oh, there's a little bit more to it, but basically, uh, they kind of it sounded like they kind of ran into some trouble on the prosecution side, and they didn't have enough to continue going. Um, so they decided to drop it. So he came out with a big tweet today saying, "I've always known these claims were false." He says a bunch of other stuff and says, people should basically be ashamed of themselves for trying to cancel him. Yeah. So that's kind of the long and short of it. He was he's kind of been exonerated, or he's not guilty of what they thought he was guilty of. A lot of people still don't like him. A lot of people still think that he did do some of those things, and they just don't have any evidence for it. But as far as the legal system is concerned, um, he's done nothing wrong.
Yeah, it then becomes a big mess for things like Rick and Morty because Adult Swim dropped him, and it's like so. It's are they going to let him back into the fold? If not, will he try to pursue like would he sue them for the rights or anything like that? Because yeah, it's going to be a big mess for sure. So
I mean, like in my opinion, like if I were them, knowing what I know, I would probably try to bring him back because he was so many of the voices. And some of the articles that I was reading, I mean, you never know the bias there, but some of the articles that I was reading said that like he basically was the show. He
well, it's like any of the animated shows. You take out McFarlane from Family Guy or something like that, or a couple key people from Simpsons, and you've killed like half the cast. So for sure that, and he was creative behind it and everything like that for Rick and Morty, and it was, how do I say this? People have been guilty of worse and still
Come
continue
back.
to do entertainment like on a regular basis, whether it be movies, music, whatever, like full on guilty, uh, without a questionable doubt, and that they still have functioning careers. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, chaining a woman to a bathroom, imprisoning a woman in a bathroom. I don't know if he would have been able to get over that if that was proved true. But you never know. I mean, people do kind of do some pretty wild stuff, and after enough time, they are forgiven. I don't know. I don't know how many good ideas Justin Roiland actually has in him. So it's a bit of a toss up. Um, he may not want to come back. He might be like, I've got some good ideas. I can start over. I can get money for my ideas because of who I am on my own, and then I won't have to share any of this with anyone, anything new that I make, um, and have complete control over it. That would be a hard road for him, but if he knows he has some good ideas, then that would probably be the way he'd want to go. Still, I think the best thing for everybody to do is to let bygones be bygones, welcome him back into the fold. Because the other thing too is like he is going to be watched like a hawk. Anything that he does that's the least bit weird, people are going to be recording it. At least for the next probably 3 years, and for sure the next 12 months. It's going to be like, okay, but he's not going to do like anything wrong. He's not going to jaywalk, if at all. So he's going to be on his best behavior. So to me, now would be the time to bring him back in. I cannot hear you.
you would think that, but there's a lot of celebrities that have proven otherwise, when
I
it
mean,
comes
yeah,
to, yeah, they're not going to do anything wrong, or like politicians for that matter. And then next thing you know, they're still doing a bunch of stuff that they
Anthony
probably shouldn't
Weiner,
be doing.
famously. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. Yeah, I don't know. I think that whether or not they welcome him back into the fold will be quite telling. If Adult Swim and the people at Rick and Morty, that are still there at the companies, if they're like, nope, we're moving on, that, I mean, obviously that's not any legal pretense. There's no legal evidence with that, but it is kind of like if they're that quick to move on and they don't want to welcome him back at all. Sometimes there's business stuff involved, but it might also be like telling that they still think or they still know that he is um, not totally innocent in at least in their eyes, which it doesn't count for anything really, but other than a little bit of kind of navel gazing and hearsay. So yeah, I don't know. Only time will tell, I guess, what they're actually going to do. But I was kind of surprised to see this kind of come to a close so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what happens when you don't have enough evidence or you hit a roadblock like that. But once again, yeah, it may or may not pop up again in the future, and there will be other things. Like I said, if they don't, if he runs into some trouble with trying to get hired back on with Adult Swim or something like that, there's guaranteed to be some sort of legal action going to be happening. So
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll end up reporting back on this within the next little bit. All right, what
maybe.
else you got for the news?
Oh, a bunch of other little small stuff. There's going to be a Counter Strike 2, which you've probably heard about by now if you're listening to this. Um, yeah, I don't play Counter Strike. I don't really have any interest in it, but it's a pretty big game apparently, and they're making another one.
Yeah, they just I believe Steam just reported the largest like congruent player base like ever in the last like month or so. So like they've had more players now than they have at, like at all-time record high. So that's impressive for a game that's that old for the original. So yeah, for them to be having a successor, and granted, I'm not even sure how you do that with something like this because they've kind of just been perfecting the formula. Granted, you make it look better, but whenever you make things look better and you come out roll a whole new issue, um, unless if they're just going to take the exact same everything and would just make it a visual update, then that kind of defeats the purpose of renumbering it. So they have to do something different, right? So
Yeah,
I'm
because I
curious
mean, like
to what extent.
these kind of games like live. It'd be like making a League of Legends 2 or an Overwatch 2. There's like, well,
Don't say Dota.
yeah, or a Dota. I mean, yeah, like Dota 2 is at least I don't know. It's the original Dota is just a mod of Warcraft 3. So they actually had to basically rebuild the game, from what I understand. So Dota 2 is sort of a totally new thing. With these other games, though, they have been being updated for years. So it's like at some point there has to be a rework of the code and a rebuild of everything that's going on to match new systems. I would think to because there's at some point the core of the game is just too old and you can't do the new things that you want to do with it. But yeah, you bring up a good point. Like, is this just a visual update? How much of the core gameplay is really being changed? Is it going to be a step backward at first while they get things tuned up? A lot of questions.
It always is when it comes to a new anything, whether it be a new MMO or a new, any of these games, because technically even Overwatch 2 had, even though it's like 1.5 or something, you can argue they still made a few tweaks here and there, and um, it takes a while. Fans get angry, but fans will never be happy straight up with a long running franchise. And then they'll nerf things, they'll buff things, and then eventually they'll smooth out the wrinkles, and people will be happy eventually again. So that's just it, But no, I haven't played Counter Strike since I forget, like early high school or something like that. Back when you used to jump with the shotgun because, for some reason, when you jumped, it wouldn't spread the shotgun, so it would just focus on like a focal point, and so if you jumped and shot the shotgun, it would just murder people from a distance. It was great. But then you have everyone jumping around like bunny hopping with shotguns, and
Gosh.
it was ridiculous. It wasn't really a skill game, but it was goofy as hell. Um, no, I'm very bad at competitive shooters, and so therefore I'm like, yeah. And this is before mics were popular, and I'm like, then when mics became popular, I'm like, yeah, no, not gonna listen to some little child, insult me. Well, I don't have time for that, and I would rather play anything else.
Yeah, all that
So yeah,
stuff was kind of hard to figure out back in the day. But yeah, we had to do the learning the hard way. Yeah, I remember when Counter Strike came out. Yeah, when I was in like, I remember them talking about it in middle school, and they were like my other friends were like, "This game is crazy. This game is amazing." And I was like, "Oh, cool," but I didn't have a powerful PC or anything like that, so I was like, "Well, I guess not gonna care about that." And here we are. The second one's coming out.
yeah. All right. And what's the last bit of news you got?
Next thing is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's a new game coming out, but it's going to be like God of War. That's what they're saying, at least in some of the articles I'm reading. The story is going to be based on a graphic novel, apparently beloved graphic novel, called The Last Ronin, which is one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles storylines. People like it. I think that a God of War style of game is cool. But I don't, I mean, like, I'm sure it can be really good. Um, it's just sort of weird that like you have a team of four and, you're going to be playing basically one of them at a time. Um, I would imagine, because it's going to be single player focused game. I guess that way though you can get like you're gonna play each one, so you're gonna get a bit of their story and you're gonna see their different move sets and stuff like that. So I guess that could be interesting. If it's graphically really good and has some decent puzzles and some really good action, really crisp, clean action, then it might end up being pretty good. But I don't really know too much more about it. I don't know if they've attached a studio to it or developer, if that's all known or anything like that. But I think it's a little bit early to really care about a lot of that stuff, unless it's somebody big. But yeah, I'm not gonna hold my breath for this. It might be okay, and it might just be kind of meh. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's an awkward thing when you're having four different playable characters and then you're trying to level up. So I can just see them limiting you to a single player that happens to have multiple weapons, to pick from, and then changing your style that way. Because that makes more sense. But I don't know enough about the Last Ronin series for them. So yeah, that's the simplest way around it though, right? Because, if you're playing as Michelangelo and then you're leveling them up, then if you switch to someone else, are they back to level 1? Even if it's a story-based decision, like, okay, now you're playing the Donatello chapter or something like that, or, it's like, well, then you have to level them up from scratch, and then it just feels like you're just rinsing and repeating. I
I
don't know,
mean,
there's,
maybe this is a dumb idea that I just had, but like, what if they had the Sifu guys do a Ninja Turtle game? Like, it would obviously have to be like pretty different, but basically like working in the four characters, start with Michelangelo or start with whoever you want to, and then like you work through different parts of the level, and like different ones are better at different parts, so you've kind of like got to get as far as you can. I mean, that's like something that you could do where you're using all of them in different ways, but you're likely to die with any one of them. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of Resolver with the weapon, the sword play at least, because that was Slow Clap's, first game, or at least the one I'm aware of. And I mean, Sifu has the right fighting chops, but I think it's too hard of a bar for the average person to like try to
Well,
play.
obviously they would have to make it easier for a mass market audience.
Well, that's why they're
I'm just
making
saying.
an adventure game like God of War, where you just like smash like hell and rip things apart. And that's
I know.
actually what the big question is: whether or not
Yeah.
they'd make it a PG-13 or like an R18 title, because or a mature title, because that would be if you're doing the comics are traditionally darker, and so yeah, you're gonna be like, hey, Leonardo's actually cutting people up, and if it's not the Foot Clan being all like robots, because that was the way they got rid of that, like in the cartoon, they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna make them all robots, so it's okay." They can just stab them and beat them to death because they're not real. Um, but then if you watch the first movie, they completely just, Casey Jones literally crushes Shredder in a garbage compactor, like, and he goes, "Whoops," but
Yeah, it's pretty comical and stuff like
yeah, but
that.
he
But
flat out murders him. Like, that is murder.
yeah, but the guy had it coming, and it's funny, so it's okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like you're probably right. I mean that's why they're making it, because it's more marketable. That God of War style. I think they're probably gonna stick with like a T rating. So you feel like you're playing something a little bit more adult, but not. But they still got to be able to sell to like little kids with moms who have to buy it for them and stuff like that. So it's a ways off. I think it's basically just announced. There's not any gameplay or anything like that. So we'll just have to wait and see what really comes of it.
Yeah. So that's, the only other bit of news was uh, I ended up just talking to you before the show about that new Power Rangers trailer that came out.
Ah, yes.
Uh, I mean, you did not get to grow up with the Power Rangers like I did. But you did tell me a great anecdote about you was secretly watching the movie and
Yeah,
not
so
letting.
I was one of those kids that was not allowed to watch Power Rangers pretty soon after it came out. I remember watching like a little bit of it, and then I think my mom started talking to the people at church, and of course they were like, "Well, it's based on that karate and East Asian gods and stuff, and it's violent, and it's making the kids all violent and stuff." And that was honestly kind of true, a little bit, at least for me, that last part. But anyway, wasn't allowed to watch it after like, I don't know, 4 or 5 episodes. And then, like later that year, maybe a few years later, I was at daycare in the summertime and they took us to go see a movie and it was Power Rangers. And I thought it was freaking amazing. I mean, this is like probably the first Power Rangers. I think they were in a jungle at one point. I don't know why I thought it was the second Power Rangers movie, but anyway, it was really cool to be able to see it back then. And yeah, so that's my Power Rangers story.
Yeah, I mean, this came out the right time, the original series for me because early 90s karate and everything or martial arts was at all-time high. I mean, you had the late 80s having a bunch of Van Damme and Chuck Norris films, stuff like that. Steven Seagal wasn't known for being a piece of crap back then, and so he was actually still viable as a quote unquote martial artist. You had people like Wesley Snipes and stuff like being in movies and doing martial arts, so it was really fever pitch. And so yeah, I was doing martial arts at the time. This came out, and yeah, it was a huge hit. All the kids wanted to play it on the playground. Um,
Yes, we did.
didn't really make us more violent, but that's because we were exposed to normal levels of violence on a regular basis, I
Well,
suppose.
it made
Uh,
me and all my friends violent, so
that's not because you had a repressed rage of everything else,
it
not being
must have
able to.
been like it continues to this day.
I mean, we also but before Power Rangers, we had Ninja Turtles, so I mean,
I did
you
watch
know,
Ninja Turtles, but and that was also said to be problematic because there was like because that was really all about you know the yin yang was pretty prominent in that, and the Buddhism was pretty high up there. But yeah, I mean it's silly. It's definitely silly to think about now.
I I feel sorry for you, and yet I'm sorry for laughing.
But I
Um,
did watch a lot of it. Like that one for some reason, got it didn't it got on too late. Um, what was kind of really going on there kind of got on too late, and I'd already pretty much seen like a lot of that stuff. I didn't really watch much of the cartoon, but that wasn't because like I wasn't allowed or anything like that. It was just I think I don't remember. So it was so hard to catch cartoons back then for me, um, like regularly for some reason. But I remember really liking. I was a little kid, but I remember really liking the Ninja Turtles 3 where they go to Japan. I thought that was really cool. I'm sure it looks. I'm
I
sure it's terrible now.
yeah, I wonder how badly that holds up as far as racial stereotypes. But I
It's
do
all ninjas
remember,
and samurai.
yeah, and the most '90s version of all that stuff.
Well,
Um,
they don't go to like modern Japan. They go to like ancient Japan because they go back
yeah,
in
it's
time and
turtles.
to
Yeah,
Japan.
yeah, it's time travel because that was post Back to the Future 1 and 2, so time travel was cool. I just remember in the beginning of that movie, instead of high five, they do high foot, and then two of them do like they do roundhouse kicks, and yeah, my buddies and I were able to mimic that because we we did martial arts so much, and we were able to do really good ones, and it's just funny because that was the only thing I remember from that dang movie. That literally like the only thing. That and the cover has a lantern on it for some reason because I think that's the time travel device.
Oh
Um,
yeah, it's probably terrible, but I liked it back then. But anyway,
yeah, but this Power Rangers movie, it's once and always. It's going to be coming out. Looks like the first. It's supposed to be the first episode coming out on the 19th of April, and it has the original cast. That's what makes it unique.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Granted, uh, a couple of the cast members have passed away, so I'm curious how, like they make note of at least the Yellow Ranger having a daughter, and she's going to be taking up her mantle. But unfortunately, most recently, the Green Ranger Tommy, which I'm forgetting the actual actor's name, so I apologize about that. But he had passed away uh, within like the last couple months, or like last year. He so yeah, and he was very much still in the figurehead of like kind of promoting Power Rangers as a whole. Like you'd see him do the couple of the convention circuits, or you'd be seeing him like with interviews and stuff like that. He was pretty openly like cool with the Power Rangers, while everyone else kind of like wrote it off and like won't talk about it.
Yeah.
And he had a cameo in that reboot they did a handful of years ago. Just him and the Pink Ranger at the very end. You just see them as members of the street being like, "Oh, there's the Power Rangers right there," and that was just like that little snippet cameo. It was pretty funny. But yeah, and then
Yeah, I
I
love
guess
that they
the
got the
question is,
original cast
yeah,
as best they could. And they are there in like all their, freaking third. I mean, what is it like 25, 30 years later?
they're in their 40s at least, right? So,
They're
I mean,
yeah, because they were. I mean, what they had to be like 20, 25 somewhere in there. Whenever they were doing it originally, or were they even younger than that?
they were quote unquote in high school.
I
So the
know.
actual character, yeah, I know, but still, if you just do that simple math, I mean, them being in high school in the early
So
90s,
15 to yeah, about 40, 45 somewhere in there. Yeah, but like the show does, it's for a particular young audience. You can tell it is in that old school Power Rangers style of like sort of silly, um, action and
I
theatrics.
wonder how much of it is for kids, because I feel like it's just straight up for people like me just doing this nostalgia like hit. Like that's all. I don't think they're actually like, yeah, you can kind of like with it being like it's for you and your kids. I'm like, no, dude, it's just for me. I don't think the kids will be into what you're selling.
But you
But I
liked
think that
it when you were a kid, so your
yeah, but
kids
that
will
was
like
also it
it.
was also a very different landscape of what you had available to watch.
That is true.
Um,
And it
I
was in
mean.
480p back then, not
And your
1080
TV,
to 4K.
you were balling if you had a 32-inch, CRT. Like your family,
Gosh,
oh man, you got 36-inch. Wow, that's like a 150-pound TV.
you
Um,
have a bigger TV. We had no idea about. It's like a massive TV made no difference, and we didn't understand that at all. Like, why? Why did we care? It could have been.
well,
It could have been like 10 inches. It's the same feet.
yeah, but
Same as like
also it
10 feet.
was the pixel density was different. That's a different story as well. But no, it's anyways. It was yeah, your selection of what you had to watch was very slim, and
Yeah.
but now there's so many things competing for your attention. Let alone the long history of any other Power Rangers series since, but also anything from YouTube, just absolutely anything. And attention spans are very different now. You know, kids will just watch other people play with toys or other people play games instead of actually watching in a full length series of this. So I really am curious of how many kids will actually get into this and how much of it is no, the adult is watching it and is making their children watch this instead.
Well, yeah,
Like, "Hey,
because it
watch this with
is
me because I watched this as a kid, and this is my TV time. It'll be our TV time now," you
because it
know?
is the original actors. I think you have a point there that it is more for you because like kids tend to like to watch other young people, young adults, or people who are supposed to be in high school, or other kids. So it makes sense that maybe this is since it doesn't have those kind of people, it has people that we remember that maybe it is more for us, which is sort of weirdly sad.
I kinda want it to have the most dark, twisted future of this being run by the people who make CW shows, just to see how bad and, like, cringy you can make it.
Like
Because like, the guys who do, like, was it, the Archie comics one, or any of, like,
Riverdale.
or any. Yeah, Riverdale. There you go.
Yeah.
Riverdale. Have them make the Power Rangers, but
I've
with like
heard, yeah,
these
I've heard some
40-year-old.
crazy stuff about Riverdale. So yeah, that would almost be, that would almost be more fun. Just the
Yeah.
crazy ass shit that would be going on.
Or any of the superhero shows. You got like the Arrow or the Flash. I mean,
Honestly, the
like you
Power
got.
Rangers could probably show up in Riverdale, and it wouldn't be that weird.
I feel like they can probably fit most of the CW lineup, and I'd be so like, okay.
You're
Um,
kind of right. Yeah, it fits in there.
but yeah, no, that's anyways. I'm very curious about this because of like I said, it had a good trailer. I'm usually not one to watch trailers, but it was just long enough. It didn't overly stay its welcome. It didn't give me the whole plot line to season one or nothing
Oh,
like
okay,
that.
that's a good try.
And yeah, so I'm just I like I said, I'm a sucker for some of the old Sentai, hero stuff. And yeah, I'll most definitely come back to it and talk to you about this when I do end up watching it.
All right.
But yeah, that's it for news. And you've been playing a little bit of Hogwarts, but you don't really want to go too deep into it. So what will you tell us about it?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm going to talk about it again next time whenever I'm done with it, come hell or high water. So I'm right at 20 hours into the game. Um, and it's a good game. You know, what you've heard is true. It is quite a bit of a collectathon, but I will say the good thing about the collectathon parts, you don't have to do very much, if any of it. It's all like, hey, do you want better gear faster? You know, then you collect these things. And also like you can kind of just not pursue any of it intentionally and just do the main story. As far as I can tell, you can do most of the main story, and as you're running from point to point trying to do the main story, you will actually run by a lot of stuff that you can collect. So if you know the right buttons to press, which the game teaches you, but if you know the right things to look for and buttons to press, and you're willing to like take, two steps out of your way to, we'll check over here or check over there, um, you can actually collect a lot of the stuff that the game has there. That being said, like the game's environment is really great. Like the Hogwarts Castle, I think I said this last time, is really beautifully rendered and feels like you're really there in that world. That Hogwarts, like that whole valley of stuff, has, Hogsmeade and Upper Hogsfield and, all these little towns and stuff like that for you to go through. There's lots of stuff to collect and lots of things to see, and the collecting kind of, guides you through that world or gives you a reason to go see a lot of that stuff. So, it's not so bad, but if you are someone that is annoyed by collectathon stuff, even being kind of waved in front of you, because it is sort of annoying to have it in front of you and to have to ignore it constantly. If you are that kind of person, then yeah, you might not really like this game all that much. But yeah, so that, and I finally got a broom, and I've been riding around on that. The broom stuff is pretty. I mean, it's flying and sort of racing style, flying through rings and stuff like that, and time trials. So it's really not. It's not really, I don't know, very complex or complicated. But the broom, like flying on the broom itself, does feel pretty cool. It's like there's something here that they could do something pretty great with, because it is complex. I mean, you know a lot more about flying than I do, but like, you are having to control like up and down, your speed forward and back, and you're kind of able to move the camera around and turn separately from that. So it's hard. It's easy to get kind of confused that way. There's been a lot of times where I will turn the camera one way and then basically be looking at myself from the side or kind of the back and side. And it makes it hard for me to like judge how to fly through this ring or catch this speed bubble or whatever. But I'm excited to see what they if they add anything as far as like Quidditch or anything better on that front because it's I think there's promise there. But yeah, I'm going through the story. It feels like a Harry Potter, Hogwarts type story so far. There's, I kind of think I know who the bad guy is, which I guess I should by now, but I think they're trying to sort of keep it secret, but they're not doing a very good job of it. So I think I know who the bad guy is, and um, yeah, I'm going to start to mainline the story, and I think I'm going to top out about 35 or 40 hours on this game, and then put it away at least for a while. But um, it is good. I do like it.
So with all the collecting, do they actually give you substantial rewards, or is it just like, a badge or like,
You get better gear from collecting stuff, but you also get better gear from poking around the world a lot. And there is a lot of problems. Not a lot of problems. There's a few annoyances with the gear um, that are more prevalent, at least in the early game. Now that I'm in like mid game, it's not so bad. But like early game, you only have so much inventory space and you collect a lot of gear. So you have to either sell it or destroy it. So if the dungeons aren't that deep or big or anything like that, but if you're in a dungeon and your gear gets full, then you have to leave it or you have to destroy something that you could make money off of. And so I have had to do that a couple times. So it just makes it so you have to go back. You have to make sure you just purposefully sell all of your gear. There's not a way to organize the gear and sell it in mass. So you're kind of doing that often and it's pretty irritating. You can expand your inventory slots, but you have to do certain puzzles to do that. And you don't always have the right magic spells learned in order to do that. So that's been the most annoying part of the game so far is everything to do with the equipment because but then again like you're also finding new equipment that's better than your old equipment all the time. And so it's kind of like, yeah, you throw this away, yeah, you throw that away, but you're having to sell it every chance every time you go back into town or come out of a dungeon, you've got to just clean out all your gear. So you're going sell this, like click sell, click sell, click sell. Oh, okay, and then you're done, and you go out back into the world, and then you can collect more gear. That is definitely the most annoying part of the game so far.
all right. Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, we'll come back to it, and I mean, speaking about the annoyances of collecting gear, I played a little bit, for probably I'm done playing now for the better part of a while. Dying Light 2.
okay,
So I was playing that for a bit, and I got into like I finally got into the latter. I don't know. I got like one third, like a quarter or a third through the game, where they open up the rest of the game to you. You have the map up in the corner. The next thing you know, uh, towards you finally get to have, instead of like the 3 or 4 the burrows you're into, also next thing like you got the rest of the map. That's awesome. Uh and I felt like it was just more of the same. But the story beats to getting to that point was kind of fun because it was one of those, okay, everything's hitting you quick and fast. Here's the new chapter. You just have to run, do this, and then it's just like it was a nice flow of a couple main story events. The next thing I know, it was like, I don't know, 2 in the morning, and I had to go to work, in a few hours, and I was like, oh wow, that kind of sucked, but it was really fun playing. But that game gives you so many weapons that drop, and you're constantly just turning around selling those for, and I never have to worry about money in that game. So it was just,
like that is
but
the best slash worst thing about like a really good game is when it just makes time just melt. You're just like you're like okay, I'm gonna play for a little while, and then you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's been like 4 hours.
yeah, it was like it was a little slow to start, and it was just like I said, it just had a right domino effect of a couple missions one after the other, and I'm like, you know what? Like all I have to do is run from this point to that point, just make it right there, and I'll complete this, and then the next bit, I'm like, you know what? That's only a little bit further to do something else, and yeah, I got to got to the landmass area, and then they gave me a parachute, and so I can glide around from the rooftops. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. Um, and I made it a little further in, and then I'm like, this, all right, it's kind of just feeling a little bit more same, but now there's just more of it. And but the story is kind of what like was fueling me, and I just don't have the time to play that game right now
Yeah.
because of the open worldness of it all. Um, but on the flip side, I was able to check out from the library the Modern Warfare 2 from 2022, the remake, uh, not the remastered, because there is actually Call of Duty, Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 remastered. That came out a few years before that. So, but the 2022 remake is actually pretty fun. I played the 2019 Modern Warfare remake as well, and so yeah, it's just a continuation of that story. Very different from the original source material on the second game here. You have the same main characters, and then for the most part, a lot of the stuff is just fresh new content. So like, especially slight spoilers, I guess, for the original Modern Warfare 2. Like the end of that game ends with you being betrayed, and you're like, oh, the big bad guy was secretly someone you knew the entire time, and they just straight up kill Ghost, like the guy with the mask. Like he was nowhere near as a mascot of a character. He's just like, yeah, he's a cool dude that's on your team. He's cool because he's quiet and he's just a murder machine. And yeah, they just fucking dome him right there. You're like, oh snap, he just died. Like you have your slow motion ending fight scene, and you win, and then the game credits roll, and that's it. This is very different from that. um, yeah, you're expecting some of the major story beats. The 2019 Modern Warfare tried copying. They did some of the same exact missions, like all gillied up. Is one of the more famous missions, and they did follow a lot of the same beats, but they switched up enough. But this one is very very different, to the point where like you're expecting the infamous no Russian mission where you're
Mm.
walking through the airport. Uh, that does not pop in at all until the only thing is they have a credit scene. So after credits roll, you get a little cutscene, and all it is some people ordering food on an airplane, and secretly it's code, and he's disassembling all his equipment on him, like taking off a necklace and taking out like his belt, and like having all these hidden items to form a pistol. And then under his dinner tray, like topper, because he's on an airplane flying coach, and somehow they give him a salad because he orders a salad, and it's in a metal dome, and it's like underneath the metal dome it happens to be bullets, like the magazine for like. I'm like, I have not seen a metal serving tray like at a hotel on an airplane, but we'll go with that. Sure. And so yeah, and then
Uh,
there's a text message just letting people know, uh, like, hey, are you ready? Like, yeah, we're ready. And then it's like, okay, and then it just saying no Russian, and then he drops it in a thing of soda, so the soda will short circuit his phone, and then it just ends right there. So they allude to a terrorist act, but instead of being in an airport, they're making it on an airplane. So they'll probably continue it with if they make a third one, and they'll probably just have it set up so it's either the plane goes down or the plane's kidnapped or plane goes into something. So we'll see.
Modern
Um,
Warfare remake, Modern Warfare 2, the remake 2.
they had a Modern Warfare 3.
But I mean,
Uh,
like, if it's going to be between Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, is it going to? I don't know, because
they've remade 1 and 2, and then they'll remake 3.
but this mission you're talking about, this hypothetical mission, is not part of Modern Warfare 3, is it?
No, it was originally Modern Warfare 2.
So
So
but it's going to be
they
a
can
different mission on a new game, so it's going to have to
I just
be.
assume they're just going to allude to it, saying this is what happened.
Oh, okay.
We're just going to fill you in on it, because that's the thing is, during the time of the original games, they were really trying to push the envelope of what can you handle. One of the missions in the game, if I remember correctly, of the original Modern Warfare 2, uh, you don't really understand what too much of what's going on. You're just playing as a some new character as you're rolling around through I don't know if it's Iran or something like that, but you're being driven around, and next thing you know, like your character literally gets executed, firing squad style, and that was like the whole mission is just like you seeing this trouble. So in the whatever going on for this power struggle, and then you get to see yourself like lined up, and they're like, yeah, we're pushing the envelope, and then they do the no Russian bit where next thing you know, you're walking through an airport and everyone's you know you're shooting at like you have the option to shoot at civilians, so that was like really edgy for the time.
Yeah.
And then they continued to do stuff for the next couple of games. I don't remember if it was two or three, Modern Warfare 2 or 3 that had a nuke go off, that and you get to play the troops trying to stop the nuke, but and then it detonates and you see the smoke cloud come towards you, so they were really always trying to do something. I think one of the latter ones, they're like, um you may or may not have to shoot at a child, or you see a child get shot or something like that. And so
Dang.
I think by that time I've already checked out of the series.
Mm.
But I do like these games for the stupid action sequences. They're a Michael Bay film that you get to play, and it's short little bits, so you don't necessarily have to play in long continuous things. There's not really collecting. It's just turn your brain off, enjoy the ride and have at it. So the graphics on this thing are amazing. They that's one thing they always have is like during their actual cutscenes, you get some real photorealistic, character models and just scenery. The levels themselves are also phenomenal. Uh, their Amsterdam level has gotten praise since the moment it came out, and rightfully so. It looks just beautiful. And the gunplay is always spot on. I feel that they did enough new. They try to spicing some stuff up for the levels from here and there. Like, uh, you can control one of you kind of act as an overwatch for one of the other characters. So you're controlling cameras and you're trying to give them clearance. You're like, hey, you can take down these guys. You can move to the next vehicle or next point. So you're giving them commands, and that kind of sequence is fun. They did enough, interesting set pieces. Your character falls out of a helicopter during a firefight, but he's tethered, so he's dangling upside down while you're trying to do a you're trying to infiltrate a convoy, and so you're with like the resistance, and you're firing at vehicles and people while hanging upside down. It's a little bit of a trippy, fun sequence, but then you have some other ones that are just obnoxiously like overcomplicated. During a different kind of the similar convoy scene later on, you have to jump from vehicle to vehicle, and they make it the most difficult possible. Like a normal game would have you drive up, and then so long as you're close enough, you can like automatically like
Jump over.
magnet jump to their door or jump to the roof, and then you have a more forgiving jump. This is nothing like that. This I had died so many times climbing to the roof of my vehicle, trying to jump, being just a little too far away, and then hitting the ground and having to reload. Luckily, these load times are nothing, so that if it was like the olden days, I probably would have rage quit.
Yeah. That's probably why they
But I
did it
died
though.
way too many times in that sequence just to jump from one vehicle to another, uh, and it was needlessly stupid. Or later on, there's throughout the game there's some lighting issues, which I was actually really surprised with a game like this to have like these kind of weird bugs, where through the walls you can actually see like the spotlights from just whether it be a security light or flashlights from the enemy weapons, or if they're holding they have a dot sight, you can actually kind of see it shimmering through the wall like
Mm.
a solid wall. And so it's just like, oh, that's really messed up. And then there was like a scene later on where you're playing as Gaz. He's wearing a mask, and so I'm like, in the opening scene, you're going down into the sewers or tunnels, and you kind of have a lens flare. You're like, oh wow, okay, lens flare, and your scene starts. From the cutscene to the actual motion. All right, and as you walk forward, you expect that lens flare to disappear. Next thing you know, this isn't disappearing at all. No matter where I look, I have literally three-fourths of my screen from the upper right corner to the bottom left just completely blared out by the light. Like, what the heck is going on? Reload the scene, still the same thing. Quit the mission, close the console, fire it back up, still the same. Aim down my sights, gone. Let put my pistol away, lens flare still back there. Like, what the heck? And that it's not the longest of sequences, but it's long enough for it to be super annoying.
Mm.
It really is. So it was just like, how did that pass like a Q&A bit? I have no idea.
Well, I
And
mean,
that's
it may not occur every time. It might have been
it
on.
occurred every time for me, and I made it to the end of that level, and I went to reload from last checkpoint. I accidentally hit reload from the mission, and I had to start the whole mission again. I'm like, dang it! I was so upset, and I'm like, okay, and that same issue still popped up. I think what it is I think it's just they had some sort of massive bug or error with their lighting system, and for some reason, especially with that character model wearing like a baklava, like the ski mask, they yeah, I don't know. There's the way that character set up or the way the lighting is in that tunnel, it just completely blew out the scene, and
Well,
they're like,
the fact that it hasn't been patched yet, and it came out last year. Yeah, it may be. It may not going to be patched for a while,
oh,
if at
I don't.
all.
I think they've just given up on it because, it's like it's probably just that one particular level as far as as bad as that lighting gets. Because like you make it to the surface and you don't have that problem with him, but in the tunnels you do, and yeah, but like they said, that those lighting issues through the walls, it made it to like the final mission, and you're supposed to be hiding from the enemies, and you can kind of cheat because you're like, okay, they are on the other side as well. They're hunting you down. Like, oh, at least I can see where their lights are because it's just like that's breaks the immersion for you. I mean, but some of their scenes are just a little too slow. I mean, all in all, I think it was a good game. It was fun, but it wasn't as good as the 2019 um, Modern Warfare remake. It doesn't have that one at least had more highs and was telling more of a fuller story. This one was a little more of a shallow bit, and I just felt like it still had a lot of fun scenes and had a good spectacle, but it just wasn't hitting all the high notes the previous one was.
Yeah, it just wasn't
So
all the way there. Yeah.
yeah, but I had played that to completion, but then again, they're shorter games, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I was glad to get rid of it off my hard drive because that was like 100 gigs, and that was just the campaign,
They're big
like
games.
the base
Yeah.
game and campaign. Like I did not download the any of the multiplayer stuff, let alone the Warzone or nothing like that. So I was like, geez. Um,
Dang. That's a big game. 100 something gigs. Crazy.
yep.
Sounds
All
good,
right.
though.
Oh yeah, you wanted to talk about the Last of Us, didn't you?
Yeah. So going into kind of what we've been watching, finished up The Last of Us TV show. Very good. Very good show overall. Makes me want to play the game. I have the Last of Us remastered on PS4. Um, I don't know if I'm ever going to get the chance to play it. There's some other stuff, but I kind of want to try to play it and then The Last of Us 2 before the next season comes out, probably in about a year. So we'll see what comes of that. But the show was good. Liked all the actors and the acting. There's a few things I could nitpick about it, but for the most part, it was pretty satisfying. I think that it's probably easily the best video game adaptation into a TV show or movie ever. I mean, that's not saying a lot, but I think that you could easily make that argument. I think we've said that before, though, so that's nothing new. But it's good from what I hear. It ends the same way the game ends, and goes pretty much the same way the game goes. So yeah, very good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I would say instead of playing the PS4 remastered, just play the part one for the PS5 that was came out again.
Yeah,
The engine and the overall fidelity, I mean, it really is nice. Plus, you got that new TV. You might as well
I
take
have a
full advantage of it.
PS5. I have a new TV. You're right. I should probably go ahead and just take full advantage. You're right, and and play that one. But it does cost like $70. I could get it used maybe. It wouldn't be so
Or
bad.
do my route. I mean, by now, like, no one's really checking it out from the library, dude.
That's true. Maybe I could find it at the library. But I am trying to build my library, my own library of games. So I like having a game, extra game here and there. There's a couple other things that I am trying to get to. So it is a bit on the back burner. Actually, kind of talking about that, I am toying with the idea of jumping into Bloodborne, because I always wanted to play Bloodborne, totally missed it. I do have a copy now, and so I wanted to at least play that at some point. And it's only going to look worse, every year. So I thought I might try to play that, but we'll see. That's a little ways off. Just kind of what my hope is. But yeah, anyway, Last of Us TV show, quite good.
I was gonna say, Bloodborne's no Elden Ring. I'll give it that. It's a very different beast.
Yeah,
I tried my hand at Bloodborne, saw what made it good and why people liked it, and also said I don't have the time to get good, and
yeah,
so I bounced out.
yeah. That's kind of what I'm afraid of. I have heard some different things though, that like Dark Souls and all that stuff wants you to be really defensive, but Bloodborne is like the opposite. Like the correct way to play that is really aggressive. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that kind of might be more fun. So we'll see. Not going to start it for a while if I do, but that's going to be before Last of Us. I think. I really think I need to get to Bloodborne before it gets too far away. I mean, that game is already freaking almost 8 years old, 10 years old.
So then it do- so how much more far away can it get? I
It
mean,
can get older. It can get
just
older.
play. You're easier. It's better off at this rate just waiting for the new From Software game to come out, which
I
is what
know, but
Front
I wanted
Mission.
to, but like,
Play
I
Front
want to
Mission.
have played Bloodborne. I want to actually have played it, but I mean, yeah, it is kind of silly at this point. Anyway, that's just the way my messed up brain works. So, yeah, enough of that. Last of Us TV show is good. But I also watched another thing. Um, there was a little movie came out last year called Everything Everywhere All at Once. And when it was in the theaters, it looked good. It looked kind of cool. I was like, but I didn't make a point to go see it. Later on, heard from people that I trust more or less that it was good, that it was very good. And I was like, okay, cool. And then it won Best Picture. And I was like, okay, um, I'll give this a try. Let's see what's really going on here. Because I was like, it's kind of, I thought it looked good. People said it was good. And then like the Oscars said it was good. So I was like, all right, there's definitely something about this movie that maybe is
It won Best Picture, it won Best Female Lead and Supporting, it won
it
Best
won like
Supporting
7 Oscars,
Male.
didn't it?
Yeah, I felt like that was the one where they just had to give everything to everyone.
So,
Because yeah,
a movie comes along like that every once in a while. I was pretty disillusioned with the Oscars when I watched The Shape of Water, and then looked it up, and I was like, wait, this movie won the Oscar for Best Picture. I was like, wow, the world is.
it's all politics, man.
It
Uh,
is. It is, and I know that, and that's why like that alone doesn't sway me. Um, but since the other two factors were present, and then I saw that it won so many Oscars, I was like, okay, and I already wanted to see it, but I just wasn't, you know, I wasn't like making it top priority. Once I saw that, I was like, okay, let's try to get this watched. So I watched it on Amazon Prime or via Amazon Prime, but through Showtime, so I need to cancel that free trial. But I watched it, and it was really, really good. I was actually uh, very impressed. It is a really good kung fu movie to kind of oversimplify it. It is a very well filmed movie. It is a movie that needs to be a movie. I think more than any other medium, It is colorful and beautiful. The story is excellent. It is hilarious in a lot of places. It even has some really weird jokes that I was like, are they? That's got to be a joke, right? And it's like kind of confirmed a few times later where like, okay, then now I know that what they were doing earlier is a joke because of what they're doing now. Um, it was really good. I was blown away by how much I actually liked it. I was like, okay, I'll probably like this. I'll probably even like this, a pretty good amount. But when I actually saw it, probably about 20 minutes in, I was like, okay, yeah, this is something special.
I don't know how much I can trust you though, because you were also expecting Batman to be like, to like win best supporting actor or something like that because of the Penguin. Yeah, you were
Oh
really
yeah,
high on that.
that was weird. I had no idea that was who was behind the prosthetics for that. That was wild.
Yeah. I've heard like I to be honest, when I first saw a trailer, I barely saw any trailers for um Everything Everywhere, and I was just like, okay, Michelle Yeoh's in it. That's cool. I really like her
She
from
is
a lot of
very
other
good in
stuff.
it.
And I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, just what little trailers I saw. I'm like, my brain went to, oh, this must be like a Netflix original or something like that, because that was just like, it just felt like
It's off the
from
wall
the
that way. I mean,
yeah.
even more than anything on Netflix that I can think of right now.
Well, that and the fact that I mean they funded like the Crouching Tiger 2 movie and stuff like that. So it was just something I expected them to have just made. I'm like, all right. But once again, I'm not really big into watching trailers. And so then when I like I said, I only knew about the heard about it after after the Oscars came out, and you hear about Brendan Fraser winning Best Actor for Whale, and I'm like, I didn't even know that he was in that movie or that movie existed. I just knew, people were talking about how he gained weight, and I just assumed that they were just talking about how he gained a little bit of weight from when he came back into the scene, the film industry. And then I saw photos. I'm like, oh wow, okay, this is what they meant by that. Because but also I feel I'm not trying to say he doesn't deserve it, but also I feel at this point, since he's come back into the industry after his being like blacklisted for so long
Yeah,
um I felt like they were kind of giving it to him, like it just sounded like that, I should say, but he probably did
yeah,
deserve the well, I mean, he's for all accounts he's supposed to be a great guy, and everyone seems to really like him. So I'm like, yeah, and it sucks that he was forced out of the industry because uh essentially of harassment and such.
okay. I didn't.
So
I just noticed that he was like gone after the Mummy and a kind of like the Journey to the Center of the Earth or something like that.
Journey to the Center of Earth, I think, was his last major one, and then I remember he had a cameo in the G.I. Joe movie. He
Oh
literally
yeah,
had just the smallest of cameo. He rolls in on one of those Can-Am, trikes. And he has a couple lines. He's not even accredited, and I'm like, was that his tax write-off? He just like, I want this new toy, and if I'm in this film riding it, I get to tax write it off, and But honestly, after that, he just disappeared. But
yeah.
apparently,
I
he
didn't.
suffered harassment and stuff like that.
I didn't
Um,
know I didn't know the backstory of that. But yeah, he made it back, and people were talking about how great his performance was, and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff, you're right, is politics, and it is a bit. There's like right, place, right time. It's your turn. It's the Oscar is in a lot of ways a bit of a lifetime achievement award. They're going to give it to you if you keep kind of being in big movies and doing stuff for a long time. You're going to get it eventually. But yeah,
yeah. So, anyways, I'm glad that you liked it. One of my coworkers, right up his alley, and he's just like, I tried watching it 3 times. I'm like, I couldn't finish it, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like that's a bummer.
what is
It's
up
like,
his alley about it? Did they think?
he likes anything. Well, the as far as I guess the polite way to put it is the sci-fi-ness of it, or the like the not main story arc, like because he likes anything non-conventional like that. He likes the type of action that it provides. But he's just like, yeah, just something about it was just missing with him. And I'm like, huh, that's odd because a lot of his movies that he likes, I'm generally pretty okay with. And so for him not to like him, like, I'm more curious about this now. Actually, I didn't care about it even after the Oscars, but the fact that he tried to watch it, it seemed like he should have liked it. He didn't, and I'm like, you know what? All right, I kind of need to try this now because I want to know what about it you didn't like because it seems to be like doing gangbusters as far as fan, the crowd audience.
I mean, like,
But you like anything, so that's why I can't really say anything. Like if you really don't like something, that means it must be hot trash.
yeah, I just don't finish things that I don't like. Um, uh, the movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think. So it is rather long. So compared to like a standard 90, 100 minute movie, whatever. Um,
I feel like 90 and 100 minutes isn't standard anymore though. I
it's more
feel
like
like
2 hours. It's always been two hours.
I feel like 2 hours is the new like 90 minutes. Like yeah,
I
you
think
might have
most good
110.
movies are 2 hours. Most movies that you'd be like, that was effort was put behind that and they expect it to do well. That movie's going to be about 2 hours. But I think there's a lot of movies that you just ignore and don't see that are in that, between 90 minutes and 2 hour range. Um, but anyway, like this movie is a little long. It's 2 hours, 20 minutes. There are things about it that I won't tell you about, but I could kind of guess as to why he might not like it or like identify with it. It is a movie that so when you watch this movie, you need to kind of think of it like a film. It is a film more than a movie. It is not really made to be like popcorn and soda. You can like watch it that way, but there's a bit more going on in your brain, I think, when you watch it. You can't really watch it like a Marvel movie, I would say. So, yeah, I would say turn your art brain on just a little bit if you're going to try to enjoy it. That's the direction that you should probably go because otherwise you might get a little bit bored in the beginning and maybe a little bit at the end. But anyway,
All right. Well, I'll try to give it a shot. Thanks to your recommendation. But like I said,
I thought it was good.
I'm really curious what people, what the heck's all about because when I just saw it, I didn't even think anything special about it. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what the story was. I just saw a couple quick clips and I'm like, okay, it looks like martial arts, maybe zombies. Couldn't quite even make it out. Seems like a Netflix movie. And that was literally how I brushed it off. And I'm like, oh wow, apparently I was very wrong with that, and now I need to, see what it's all about. But for sure, okay, man. Well, that's gonna be it for this is episode 40 of another Dead Pixel, and yeah, if you made it to the end, well, thanks. That's surprising.
That is surprising.
Eh, we've yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks to continue this show again. And until then, if you get bored, check us out at another damn anime podcast where Nick hosts talks about a bunch of the current anime we've been watching, and we also have our near podcast that we do every Saturday night. We try to record, so get that out on Sundays, and we've been pretty consistent about that, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, when they've been
So,
consistent, we've been consistent. So, yeah, it's pretty good.
all right. Well, anything else you want to say to the audience?
Um, Top of the morning to you.
Like I said, man, someone out there is super offended by you saying that.
Oh, Bashalele.
All right. Well, you guys, thanks again. And until next time, take it easy.
Bye.